The 1930s was a time of incredible public works projects in the United States. The country was trying to dig itself out of the Great Depression, and one of the government's major initiatives was to put people to work by building massive construction projects. Among those projects was the Deer Creek Dam in Utah, which was built between 1939 and 1941. The project included more than just the dam itself, because before they could build the dam, they needed to relocate the road and the railroad, which both ran along the Provo River and which both were destined to be submerged under the water of the new reservoir. That road was US 189, and the railroad was the Denver and Rio Grande Western's Provo Canyon route, better known as the Heber Creeper. That road and that railway line are at the heart of today's video. The road has been out of service for only 25 years, but there are still some interesting artifacts to be seen. This is old US 189 at the Deer Creek Dam in Wasatch County, Utah. This is the USGS topographical map of the area from 1948, just a few years after the dam was constructed. Note the road, US 189, snaking up the canyon, and then see that it crosses over the top of the dam. That was the arrangement which remained in place for 60 years. The road crossed the river on the top of the dam. And this is the railroad making its way up the canyon. This line had originally been constructed in 1899, but the routing reflected on this map is the alignment constructed in 1939 in preparation for the new dam. Unlike the highway, the railroad did not cross the dam. Its new routing instead went around the new lake on the opposite shore from the highway. These new courses meant that both the highway and the railroad had to climb precipitously from the level of the river below the dam up to the level of the lake. On the way up, the railroad crossed the highway, here, by means of an overpass with some Art Deco styling. After all, remember, this was the 1930s. Coming up in this video, I'll explore that overpass too. These routings I showed you changed in the late 1990s when UDOT decided to widen US 189 to 4 lanes. The top of the dam wasn't wide enough to accommodate the wider road, so that project meant that a new crossing would be necessary. On this more recent topo map, you can see the new alignment of the highway. Note that it now passes in front of the dam instead of going directly across it. And here in this shot, you can see the bridge and the fill that comprise the new crossing in the shadow of the dam. And it wasn't just the dam that could not accommodate the wider road. That 1939 highway bridge under the railroad tracks also wasn't wide enough. Fortunately, because the highway was being constructed on a new alignment, the old bridge was spared from the wrecker's ball. So, 25 years after being bypassed, this old railroad bridge is still standing, and it's now 85 years old. A few sections of the old road also are still intact, although some of them are now inaccessible due to trespassing restrictions. The starting point for my exploration of this old road is at the turnoff from US 189, which provides access to the rafting put-in area just below the dam. At this point, the old highway runs parallel to the new construction for a couple hundred yards. So I'll start by exploring this old road in the down canyon direction toward Provo, and then I'll come back and look at the old bridge. And then finally, I'll check out the dam crossing. Starting here at this intersection with US 189, you can see the old highway and the new highway side by side. However, they soon part ways, and the old highway continues on its downhill grade toward the bank of the river, while the new highway remains at this higher elevation, about 150 feet above the river, for another 2 miles. The old road here remains in the same condition as it was when UDOT abandoned it in 1999, except that Wasatch County has added a cycling path along one shoulder. The old striping has reemerged from underneath the layer of pavement that was applied at the time this road was decommissioned from state control and passed back over to local control. Eventually, about a mile down, the old road reaches this abrupt end. This is as far as I can go because at this point the highway has been decommissioned and transferred to private control. Sometimes I look at old roads like this and I like to think longingly about an earlier time. But since I can remember driving on this road when it was the main route, I usually found myself stuck behind a slow-moving truck with no hope of passing on this section. So while it's fun to explore these old roads, I'll confess that I much prefer driving on the new road. Now I'll come back to the old railroad bridge. As I mentioned, this overpass had been constructed in 1939 as a part of the Deer Creek Dam project. All of the times I've driven under this bridge, both when it was still in service on the main highway and during the quarter century after the roadway was abandoned, this is the only time that I've ever seen a train on this bridge, and it happened to be on the day when I came here to shoot this footage. Guess I'm just lucky. I don't know much about the story of this train. I can see that it is composed of some very old equipment, so my assumption is that these cars were acquired by the Heber Valley Railroad with an intent to restore them at some point. I couldn't find any information on their website, so if you know anything about these cars, please let me know in the comments because I'd love to know more. D&RGW 3274. The novelty of this train here is evidenced by the fact that there are also other people up there exploring these cars too. One guy was even flying a drone over the whole scene. But anyway, back to the star of this section, which is the bridge itself. Look at those Art Deco flourishes on this overpass. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I love old bridges like this. This bridge also had another interesting feature, which was the high-load bypass. Now, because of the low clearance of the bridge, some modern trucks and trailers couldn't fit under it. However, since there were no alternatives, the Division of Roads instead built a bypass along the south side so that high-profile vehicles could cross the tracks at grade. Now, you can see it here in these shots. The high-load bypass today is mostly overgrown after all these years, but it's still here. On this side of the bridge, facing the down canyon traffic, is this cool remnant, which advertises the Heber Creeper. The Heber Creeper was the nickname for the passenger trains which slowly snaked through the canyon on this route. That name dates back almost to the first day that those trains operated 125 years ago. Regular passenger service between Provo and Heber ended back in the decade after World War II. But I don't think this particular sign goes back that far. Instead, I think it was put here to advertise the tourist excursion trains, which used to run on this old section of route and went once as far as Bridal Veil Falls. Those tourist excursions used to pass over the highway on this overpass. For the third vantage of this old road, I've now come up to the parking area next to the dam. Unfortunately, modern-day security prevents me from getting up close to the dam. It's interesting that a quarter century ago, the main traffic lanes of the roads ran right across the top of the dam, but now I can't even get within 100 yards of the dam. The road crossed over the spillway right there. and then went directly across the dam. In the distance you can see the old road, or excuse me, the new road. I can also see over there an old historical marker in the pullout area. I'd love to know what that says. Over there, just prior to crossing the dam, we can see there was a pullout on the highway, and there was a historical marker of some type there. I can't tell from here whether the plaque is still there. Here you can see the old approach road heading up to the dam in this shot. As I close this video, I'm trying to picture how the construction of the new road might have been staged. I can see that the new road crosses the path of the old road with a giant fill. Traffic on that old road would have had to have been blocked while the new one was being built. But I believe that the old road remained open to traffic during the build, so I'm not really sure how they pulled this one off. Well, that's another episode of This Old Road. If you enjoyed this video, please click on the thumbs up to let YouTube share it with others. And if you enjoy the content on my channel, I'd be honored to have you as a subscriber. For now, thanks for watching.